Tonight, we're telling stories that all start the exact same way. Someone gets into a car. They're heading to work, going home, delivering pizza, calling an Uber, just trying to make it through another ordinary day. But roads have a strange way of becoming incredibly lonely and spooky. Once you're moving, you're committed. You can't always stop. You can't always turn around. Sometimes all you can do is just keep driving and hope whatever's behind you eventually disappears. This is Static Hour, a late-night broadcast of strange and unsettling stories from the darkest corners of the internet. I'm Bree, and we are officially on the air. So some of tonight's stories involve stalking, aggressive road rage, attempted kidnapping, and some references to death following a car accident. So if these topics are difficult for you, this might be an episode to skip. So let's get right into it. This first story is from a user that didn't want to be named from the subreddit Creepy Encounters, and it was posted 6 years ago. It's called, "Do Not Let Your Uber Driver Cancel Your Ride." Sorry, this is a bit long. I know this isn't a therapist office, but this has bothered me for a long time, and I just wanted to get it off my chest. This happened June 2018 in Portland, Oregon. I understand I acted like an idiot in this situation. Since then, I have become much more observant, cautious, and honestly, much more paranoid. I went dancing with friends and was really drunk by midnight. Unfortunately, this was back when I had little money, and I realized that you could save money by eating very little before going out, and it would take far fewer drinks to get me drunk. So I was drunk. I barely remembered my friends ordering me an Uber home. And then parentheses, they said, my phone was dead, of course. I can vaguely recall them helping me into the car and telling me to get home safe. I don't remember greeting the driver or the first real minute or so. But soon after getting in, he asked how my night was and if I smoked. Honestly, I was just thinking about bed at this point, so I sort of just slurred out that I did sometimes. He then offered me a joint. And this is the first moment that I get sort of nervous and begin paying attention. I tell him something like, I'm really tired and just ready to get home. I think he said something about it being an indica-based joint and it made for great sleep. Once again, I said something like, not exactly no, but not a yes, which he takes as a yes, I'll take that joint now. Once again, I'm still drunk enough I can barely see straight or speak. So when he says, okay, well, I have to cancel the ride really quick because I can't give it to you while I'm on the clock, or something to that effect. It takes me a second to realize how dangerous that is. And by the time I start to say something, he has canceled the ride and pulls over. We were in an area just east of the Hawthorne Bridge, I think, and it was totally secluded. Some empty parking lots, a closed auto body shop, and no one in sight. It's starting to hit me. I am now in the car, not with an Uber driver, but with some stranger. I can't call anyone, and he's trying to give me weed that could have anything in it. For the next minute or so, we're pretty quiet. Or I just can't remember any small talk that he tried to make because I was beginning to panic. And every time he handed me the joint, I would take fake hits, just breathing it into my mouth and not into my lungs. I felt tired, clumsy, and weak. That kind of drunk where you're almost at the point of nausea, and I knew I couldn't do much of anything to defend myself at that point. I remember vividly being fixated for a moment on the fact that I didn't even have a pair of keys to defend myself with, as my building uses fobs for just about everything, and I didn't take my mail key with me. As I'm freaking out, I look up to see if this guy is sort of noticing, and I make eye contact with him in the mirror. He was staring at me, but I couldn't read his expression. Finally, he says something on the lines of, "Well, let's get out of here." I tell him, I'll just call another Uber to get home, thinking at this point it might be even safer to walk. And he says, "No, I still have your address. I'll just take you home." For a moment, I was relieved. I guess I wanted to believe him so badly that I would get home safe. I tried to calm myself down, thinking he hadn't actually done anything threatening. Maybe he was just your typical stoner guy and I was overreacting. At the time, I lived on PSU campus in downtown Portland in the southwest area of the city. He is driving me north on the east side of the river. There are several bridges to our left, and as he keeps moving north, he has several opportunities to take an exit, to hop over the river, and get me back downtown. He keeps skipping these. We keep passing bridge after bridge that could get me home. Up in northeast Portland, there are some large industrial areas that can get very isolated at night. And Portland in general is surrounded by lots of forests, so I knew he could have me in a secluded area really quickly. After he passes like the fourth exit for a bridge, pretty sure it was the Broadway Bridge, I've been racking my way for a way to make him actually take me home. And I say something to the effect of, "Hey, my boyfriend is waiting for me at home." Which was true, though I said it in a very meek way. My driver says nothing, but he did take the next exit for a bridge and basically hung a giant U-turn and started taking me home. Even as we're on the west side of town heading south, I'm still shaking and I have my hand on the door handle, thinking about just hopping out at a red light the closer we get to my apartment. My phone is completely dead, and he honestly still has several chances to hop onto nearby highways and speed out of the city. We're getting pretty close to my apartment now, and I'm once again trying to convince myself I'm being paranoid about some stoner that can't navigate the city. Although a few minutes before, I was so scared that I was crying. So once we get about 2 blocks from my apartment, I lie and tell him it's easiest to stop here and he can let me out. Again, he doesn't say anything, but does slow the car down. I'm flooded with relief and even feel myself smile. But when I go to open the door, it's locked. I try to lift the lock mechanism manually, but it won't budge. I look up at him instinctually to see what's up, and he's got his head turned almost fully toward me, shoulders still facing the road, smiling at me. The worst smile I have ever seen. It looked so mocking, and it just did not reach his eyes at all. I just started crying and asking him to open the door. I was so freaked out and still very drunk, and thank goodness he did. I will never forget the sensation of vulnerability, not just by being drunk in his car with no way to contact anyone, but even as I got out of the car, I kept feeling like he would somehow grab the back of my shirt and pull me back in, as silly as that sounds. When I got home, I found out my boyfriend had actually gone out with friends last minute and wasn't even home. He wouldn't have even known till much later if I hadn't gone back safe. The next day, I convinced myself I was freaking out over nothing, which I realized could still be the case. But in my gut, I had truly felt in danger the night before. Technically, the guy could have been totally harmless, but I still think I should have texted my friend and had her report him. The big thing that made me think of this recently was hearing about how Ed Kemper would go for practice runs, picking up hitchhikers and seeing if he could get the passengers and potential victims to trust him, or how far out of his comfort zone he could push them without saying anything. Obviously, the guy wasn't Ed Kemper, but I hate wondering if that night was a practice run of sorts for my Uber driver. Thanks to whoever read this whole thing through, I'm at a point in my life where I'm realizing how much danger I put myself in when I was younger and just depressed as heck. And it has made me both surprised and deeply grateful that I'm still here. And then they said, "Edit, thank you so much for all the kind responses and advice. This event and a lot of others from when I partied a bit too much really haunted me the last few years, and your responses have been wildly affirming. Bless you guys. So this one is a story that I feel like is so common, especially with, now there's Uber, Lyft, all kinds of things. And I think I've mentioned this before, that there are many stories out there that talk about, how Uber rides went very, very wrong. I've heard some on other podcasts about people, getting attacked or just having their Uber drivers just completely take them to somewhere totally isolated. It can be so scary. And I did read, I think it was in the comments for this post that, a lot of people were, of course, giving her advice and everything like that. And some of the advice that they were giving was, to always try to carry some sort of protection, whether that is pepper spray, if that's legal in your state, or, something, some little small something. So that was one of the biggest things that people said. Another thing that a lot of people mentioned was, if you do take an Uber, to always check the child lock before you actually get in the car, which that's not something that I would ever think of. And for a lot of cars, it is as easy as just looking on, when you open the door, you can look right there and you can flip it. But I know now some of the newer cars, they actually do it it's just a button in the front. So yes, that's a great tip, but it's also not 100% because sometimes you can get into a really nice new car and they can just activate it whenever they want to. And then I think the other thing that we have talked about previously is to always take a picture of their license plates and try to send it to a friend. From this story too, I would say try to always carry a portable charger pack, the battery packs with you. That way your phone never dies, especially when you're out partying super late. But just, it's just we all have been very young and made very poor choices. So I definitely don't fault this person. But, it is very haunting to look back on moments and just kind of go through that spiral of what if. So I'm so glad this user is okay. And I hope that this Uber driver was just, your average weirdo, but harmless weirdo. All right, moving on to the next story. This is from user Nio, and the subreddit is True Scary Stories. It was posted about a year ago. It's called Creepiest Experience I've Ever Had While Driving. My brother, 25 male, and I, 23 female, were driving home from the Watershed Festival in Washington. We were driving back around 3 a.m. through the gorge a bit outside of Portland. If you're not familiar with this area, the highway runs right along a river and you're surrounded by trees. That's crazy. Wasn't our story the first time from Portland too? That's wild. Did not plan that. Since it was 3 a.m., there were no other cars in sight, just pitch black. My brother and I were listening to a true crime podcast, which definitely contributed to the mood, regrettably. There are no cars around us until we suddenly see a car up in front of us. When they see us, they suddenly turn on their right turn signal and pull off the 2-lane road. My brother found this odd, but I thought, hey, maybe they just don't want us behind them. Fair enough. I realized very quickly that this wasn't the case, because once they pulled back onto the road behind us, they suddenly sped up until they were right on our tail. They then moved into the left lane and cut back into the right lane in front of us. Odd, but I've seen worse. This is where things take a turn. Once they've cut in front of us, they put on their right signal again and pull off. Now my brother and I are getting a little creeped out because keep in mind, it is pitch black outside. There are no other cars and you can really only go one direction. We pass them again and I tell my brother to move into the left lane and just keep going. Once we pass them, they pull back onto the road again. They speed up in the right lane until they are about 500 feet behind us. I'm keeping an eye on them in the rearview mirror. They suddenly switch their lights off. My skin crawled. We have no idea where they are, but we know they're behind us. Ugh, hate that feeling. Suddenly, our car's blind spot monitor goes off, and we know the car is right by us. The car suddenly switches their lights back on and speeds past us. By this point, we saw another car's headlights coming behind us, and a sigh of relief washed over me. We didn't see the car again after that. I'm 99% sure it was just some bored teenager trying to give us the creeps, and they did a great job, but sometimes I wonder if they had other intentions. And then in the comments, there is a commenter, Snoo Chocolates 9211, that said, "You just remind me of something very similar I had happen. I was driving on I-71 from Cincinnati to my parents' house in Indiana. At this certain stretch, cars are fewer and exits are miles apart. I pass a truck that is pulled off on the shoulder, and as I pass, they turn their lights on and pull onto the road behind me. No big deal, maybe they were pulled off for whatever reason, so I keep driving, and I notice the truck is getting closer and closer to me. He gets so close that I can't even see his headlights in my mirrors. I speed up thinking that I'm going too slow, but he does the same. I switch to the left lane. He speeds up to get right next to me. I looked over and our eyes meet, and I just instantly get creeped out. I speed up again, and so does he. I have about 6 miles until the next exit, and about 10 to the exit I get off for my parents. He continued pulling up to me. Speeding up, slowing down, didn't matter. He even swerved over toward me at one point. I am so nervous at this point that I'm literally shaking. And in this stretch of the highway, I never had service, so I couldn't call anyone or anything. I start just driving as fast as I can, just thinking, worst case, I will get off at the next exit where I know there's a gas station. Then we get by that exit. It was like he slowed down to act like he wasn't going to bother me anymore. Except when I pass the exit, he starts the stuff up again. I probably drove 90 miles an hour those last 4 miles in my little Honda Civic. And when I finally get off the exit, he acts like he was going to get off and then swerved at the last second back into the lane going straight. I think I was probably like 20 years old at the time and a female in the car by myself. When our eyes locked, I can't explain it, but it was like I could tell this person had bad intentions. I was honestly creeped out for the rest of the night, and even when you get off the exit to go to my parents, there's about a 5-mile stretch that is just rural countryside, and I kept checking my mirrors, just feeling like he was going to show back up somehow. He didn't, luckily, but that experience stayed with me a long time. I would often drive down there late after I would get off work on Fridays, and that experience made me stop doing that. I would wait and drive down Saturday morning. Like, driving and road rage type stories just scare me so bad because it is something that could literally happen at any point when you are just casually driving down the road. I've said this multiple times. You literally have no idea who is driving in the car next to you. You don't know their intentions. You don't know what's going on in their head. You don't know what has been going on in their life. And that is terrifying. And I hate driving, but it's just in America, unfortunately, you have to drive to get anywhere. So it's not something that we can avoid, but I do try to always make sure like I am doing my thing. I never try to look at people driving because I don't want to make eye contact with someone because that just freaks me out. Like, I don't ever want someone making eye contact, just getting the sense that I am challenging them or anything like that. And I know that sounds probably dumb, but that's kind of where my brain goes. So, these two people, luckily, it just kind of stopped there. But I know that that is a situation that definitely would stay with any of us for a long time. The best thing that you can do in those situations is just try driving to a public place, preferably like a police station type of place if you can. Most of the time, people will not follow you to the police station if they see that you're headed that way. You can also call like the non-emergency line and just stay on the phone with someone. I know that that is something that I've heard people doing before, and they can kind of direct you to where you need to go while also, just kind of reassuring you so that you're not just feeling terrified by yourself. So again, I'm thankful that both the OP and this commenter were okay, and these ended up not being anything serious. But, You just never know. All right, our next story is from user Express Ice 8409 from the subreddit Horror Stories. This one is from about 8 months ago, and it's called I Almost Fell for a Roadside Trap in Rural Ohio. This happened in 2019, and I still get a knot in my stomach when I think about it. I was driving home late from my sister's place, taking a rural back road in Ohio that I'd driven 100 times before. It was one of those stretches where there are no streetlights, no houses, just woods pressing in on both sides. About halfway through the drive, my headlights caught someone on the shoulder. A man. He was stumbling and waving his arms like he needed help. His clothes were torn and he looked injured. My first instinct was to slow down. Oh, please, don't slow down. But something fell off immediately. Okay, good. He wasn't waving at me. He was looking past my car into the darkness behind me, like he was signaling to someone else. I kept rolling, just a little slower, trying to make sense of it. When I passed him, he suddenly lunged toward my car, sprinting at full speed. Oh, that's so scary. Oh my goodness. I slammed the gas and didn't look back. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it was shaking the steering wheel. About a minute up the road, another man stepped out of the tree line. Oh my goodness. He was standing right in the lane, like he expected me to stop. If I had slowed down for the first guy, I would have rolled right into whatever they had planned. I swerved around him and drove the rest of the way home shaking. I didn't even call 911 until I was safely in my driveway. When the police came to take my statement, the officer didn't look surprised at all. He told me they'd have multiple reports of criminals using the same tactic on isolated roads. One injured person to get you to stop, another waiting to trap you. He said if I had pulled over, things could have ended very differently. I don't take that road at night anymore, and I don't stop for anyone on the side of the road unless there are other cars around. To this day, I still wonder how many people did stop and what happened to them. Ugh, I hate it. I hate it. And I hate that you can't just think that people have good intentions. That is where we are in this world. You can't be the nice, good Samaritan because you literally have no idea what people are doing. A commenter said, I can 100% see myself falling for something like this. The instinct to be a decent human being can be strong. It's tragic that very instinct is what can make a person so vulnerable. And I 100% agree. If you do see someone, you can be a good Samaritan and just call the police. Say, hey, there's an injured person out here that it looks like they need help. I'm not stopping, but here's where they are. You did your part and you kept yourself safe. And I know that a lot of these stories are shorter tonight, so we do have more stories than usual because they are short, but I think that they're all really good, they're not the scariest stories we've ever read on here, but they all equally combine to just giving you that feeling of dread, especially the next time that you go driving at night. And hopefully you're not listening to this while you're driving down a badly lit road at 2 a.m. All right, this story is from the user Yara Trains TV from the subreddit Creepy Encounters. And this one is a more recent story. It's called Road Rage Turns into Stalking. And right off the bat, I hate it. So let's see what they had to deal with. So I was driving home late at night from work, about 1:30 a.m., and there is road work on the motorway, so all traffic is down to 40 kilometers per hour and forced off into the exit ramp. This jerk in a Volkswagen decides to floor it past me in the closing right lane and cut me off, all because I'm doing the speed limit set by the workers. I myself get pissed, admittedly, and once we're on the detour route, I got into the left lane and floored it past him. We get to the lights, and he signals for me to roll down my window. Ugh. Which I don't, but I do start clapping my hands as if to say, Yeah, well done. You have speed. Good on you. So he starts following me from here. I signal over to the right and slow down. He passes me for a moment, but then he gets to the emergency lane and appears to stop, making me pass him again. He then starts tailgating me. So I immediately leave my route back home and start heading for the police station. Good job. He followed me right up until the station, even signaling into the turn lane as I do. Only once I turned into the car park of the station did he return to the main road and speed off. I don't really know what to make of this situation, to be honest. But anyway, lesson learned. Don't retaliate against road rage. See, you guys, telling you. I thought this was going to be like a long-term stalking thing, and I was like, wow, that is some commitment. The commenters say your instinct to drive straight to the police station were 100% spot on. Seriously, good for you for keeping your wits about you. That could have gone sideways really fast. And in America, of course, a lot of our states now are open carry. You know, unfortunately, like that is, well, fortunately, like that's helpful for a lot of people, you know, to make you feel secure. If you own a gun, you know, that gives you comfort. But on the other hand, it's kind of terrifying because now you don't know who just has a gun laying around in their car. Like you just never know people's intentions. This OP, I don't think was in America because of the way that they wrote. So obviously their laws are going to be much different, but still, like I said, I feel like any of us should figure out something just to have on hand for protection. What that is, that's up to you and your laws wherever you live, obviously, but I don't think you can go wrong with just keeping a little something. And there's all kinds of little, like I know there are websites that are kind of geared towards women, and they are just websites full of like safety and defense products. So maybe we can find like a small business one and link it in our show notes to go with this. Obviously, like not sponsored or anything, but just to kind of give y'all a place to look if anyone is needing anything. All right, our next story. This is from user PureBad7688 from the subreddit Creepy Encounters, and it's another one that is fairly recent. It's called Man Chased Me in a Parking Lot. I, female, 26, was around 18 years old at the time of this encounter. I still think about it frequently when I'm out late at night and by myself, and it's made a huge impact on the way I act in public spaces alone and or with my children. I was heading to my best friend's house. We were stoners then, so she asked me to get cigar wraps from the gas station. I already had to get gas, so I decided to stop at a gas station about 2 blocks from her neighborhood. I had never felt unsafe there. It was your typical suburban neighborhood with nosy neighbors and kids playing outside often. It was around 9 p.m., and I pulled up to the gas pumps. The gas station was small, but the parking lot was rather large. The pumps and station were farther away from each other than you would expect them to be. The lot was lit up, and there was nothing eerie about it. There were about 6 cars parked out front and a handful of people inside. After pumping gas, I made my way in and got what I needed. As I headed out, I realized everyone was just gone. There wasn't a soul in sight except for the worker behind the cash register. I found it unsettling because the road in front of the station was a main road and often busy. Nonetheless, I headed back to my car. Then I heard it. Pitter-patter, as if someone was running. And I remember thinking to myself, who the heck is jogging at this time of night? I turned in the direction of the noise. Fight or flight kicked in immediately. A tall, lanky man dressed in a flannel and dark pants sprinting right towards me. His hair was dark, and he was so pale that his skin seemed gray. Before I could think or mutter, my feet were already moving. I didn't look back. I just hauled it and reached for my handle, and just like a horror film, my doors were locked. I had a crappy car, and the only way to unlock it was to insert the key. The fear washed over me as I fiddled to get that dang key into the lock. I looked up for a split second to see that he was a foot away from my passenger side door, gearing to round the front of my car where I stood at the driver's side. I dropped my things and reached for the pump. I could have ran, but fight kicked into overdrive. I was going to use that pump as military flail to his skull. As he reached the front of my car, he stopped mid-stance as if the world just froze. One arm in the air and one arm to his side. One leg lifted and the other on the ground. A car had turned into the lot, and the man and I stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity, but was mere seconds. As the car parked at the station, he pivoted on his foot and skipped. I don't mean metaphorically, I mean he actually skipped, like he was frolicking through flowers back into the direction he came from. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed my things, unlocked the door, and drove to my best friend's house. When I got there, her mother was sitting on the couch. The look on my face was one of terror, and she asked me, "What is wrong?" I told her I needed a minute. I got to my best friend's room and told her everything. It spilled out of me like word vomit. She was too stunned to speak at first. I hate this line. We decided to go for a drive to clear my mind and smoke. As we were pulling out of her neighborhood, I spotted him. I pointed and yelled, "There! That was the guy who chased me." He was pushing a large trolley, carrying a huge metal box down the road into her neighborhood. I could feel my heart and my butt running all the possibilities of what was in that box and what he was planning to use it for. I haven't seen him since, but that has always haunted me. Oh, I hate that so much. Like, number one, it wasn't even late. It was 9 o'clock. Number two, I think it's crazy that there's just people outside, and then as soon as you walk outside, they're just all gone. Like, what are the odds of that? And number two, just the gall that this guy had to, like, see no one else is around, and so he immediately just starts running towards her. Like, I hate it. Like, I hate it so much. And I love the fact that she, like, had her wits about her enough to, like, grab the gas pump handle thing. I don't know what she could have done with it, but at least she had something there. But man, that is so, so scary. And I'm wondering too, like, I would have gone back, I think, after to the gas station and be like, "Hey, can you, like, pull the cameras? Or did you see that guy running around? Like, maybe he's been doing this to their customers, who knows?" And all that to say, like, that's not even getting into the fact that he had a huge metal box. Like, what? I don't know. Obviously, he wasn't just running towards her to ask her if she could buy him a Coke. Like, that was a very real, scary situation that just, I see no other explanation for it than, like, the obvious one, And that's terrifying. All right, this one is a little bit longer. It's from the user Enough Pizza Now from the subreddit Let's Not Meet, and this one was 6 years ago. Post is called Pizza Guy Interrupted a Kidnapping. I deliver pizza, and I've been having a really busy night, nonstop, back and forth, without any time to even pause and take a leak. I've been so busy that I wasn't really thinking about bathroom breaks. But we're also going through a bit of a heat wave in our area, so I had been drinking copious amounts of water. All of a sudden, as I was driving to this particular delivery, the urge to go hit me. Like, things went from 0 to 60 in an instant. Thankfully, I was close to the customer, so I could get this one over with quickly. Or so I thought. I pulled up to the house, and it was an area I'd delivered in before, so I could immediately see that something wasn't right. All the lights were off in the house, not even the glow of a television or anything. It was extra apparent because the street light closest to the door happened to be out of order. And on top of it all, the block was dead quiet. This is a big university area, and obviously there aren't many student renters in July, but there had to be at least one person because someone ordered pizza. Maybe they just liked sitting in the dark, or they were back out in the yard, whatever. I just didn't want to get out of my car, knock on a quiet house in the middle of the night, it was around 9:30, without first checking that I had the correct address and the customer was inside. It was scorching that night, even after sundown. My car's AC is a joke, and the piping hot pizzas don't help things much. So I have to try and open the car door as infrequently as possible to keep any cool air in. I called the number the customer provided, and the voice on the other end said, kind of brusquely and out of breath, "Yeah." I just tried to keep it clear and concise. Hey, it's your pizza out front, but there doesn't appear to be anyone home." And the customer replied, still gasping for air, "Yeah, I'm not home." I had to pee so badly by that point that I was much less patient than I'd otherwise be with a customer right out of the gate. "Well, then we're going to have to terminate the order because I've arrived in the stated delivery window and you were supposed to pay in cash. So I don't know what to tell you. Plan ahead next time." I instantly regretted my bladder doing the talking for me as the voice on the other end came through more clear as a young, bubbly, and very distraught girl who couldn't have been older than 20 or 25. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was running down the street so I could barely hear you," she cried. "I just switched you out of my AirPods. Is that better? I'm sorry, I completely lost track of time at work, but I knew you were coming. That's why I am literally running home right now. Please don't leave. I am starving and I don't have a car. Seriously, please don't leave. 5 minutes tops, okay?" I know what it's like to be hungry and running late and have no car, but not live near any restaurants. Plus, when I heard her voice, I began to remember more specifically having delivered to this place a couple times before, and she'd always been perfectly nice. Now I felt kind of bad for snapping at her. I tried to walk it back while simultaneously looking out my window for potential spots to pee. No, it's my bad. I'm letting the heat get to me, and it's not your fault. No need to rush. See you when you get here." I hung up, and while surveilling the street, was starting to think I was really out of luck. All the other houses had people in them and were close together, so there were no clumps of trees or out-of-the-way patches of land or anything. Of course, I had just tossed my empty water bottle at the last delivery, because I'm an idiot. Finally, I decided it was escalating to the point of an emergency, and the safest bet was to use a bush in front of the woman's house. She wasn't home. The street light was out, so no one would see me. The people who were home were inside. My car was parked across the street, and we're a small shop who don't wear uniforms, so if someone did spot me, they'd have no way to connect me to my employer. Animals pee outside all the time. Humans are animals. This is fine. I love the logic. I scurried over to the tallest bush in her front yard. She didn't really have much of a yard, more just a walkway lined with bushes and flowers that ran adjacent to her front door. The biggest cluster of bushes, the only one where I could be sure there would be no visible splatter on the side of the house, was about 4 feet from her door. I looked both ways, unzipped, and let it fly. After the initial millisecond of relief, I noticed the sound was way off. More like peeing on something solid than something leafy. I started panicking, thinking that I'd aimed wrong. But once I start, I can't stop midstream. So I kept squinting into the darkness to see if maybe I was hitting a key rock or something and could just move a few inches over. Instead, all of a sudden, I heard a way more concerning noise. A deep voice exclaiming, "What the heck?" He didn't say heck, but I try not to cuss on this podcast, so. And before I could turn around, assuming I'd been caught by a neighbor, a man came leaping out of the bushes. He blew by me, brushing my golden shower off of him as he did. He spit pretty emphatically on the ground, so I think I might have hit him right in the face. I didn't see where he went after a few paces, but though this next part is kind of a blur, I do think I remember hearing a car screech out from a bit further away after a minute. I'd gotten some night vision by that point, so I was able to make out his height, build, and outfit, but only the most general details of each. I was in such shock that I didn't even put it away, if you know what I mean. I just stood there, trying to figure out what happened. The reality was so terrifying that my mind refused to accept it, and impulsively, I searched for a reasonable explanation that could make everything okay. I thought, could these bushes lead to some backyard area and just looked like they were against the house? Could they have been obscuring an open window? My inner voice was desperately screaming, bruh, that man was wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather. That was a bad man. You are in a bad situation. But the very idea that I was within inches of a guy who would be hiding in bushes at all, let alone in front of a young woman's house at night, just wasn't something I was ready to grapple with yet. I was coping by not coping. My fight or flight response totally failed me at that point because my dumb butt did the absolute last thing I should have done and approached the bushes to try and validate this, quote, there must have been a good reason for the man in the hoodie to be behind bushes in the middle of the night theory. So I walked over to the side, turned on my phone flashlight, and tried to peer around the line of shrubbery. Pro tip, as scary as things may look in the dark, seeing them with a single beam of your flashlight can sometimes make it even worse. Because that's when I saw the bag. There was a tattered drawstring bag sitting behind the bushes, slightly splashed with peat. But I was in such a moronic daze from shock that I groped around for it, thinking, see, this is it. This will explain why he was back here. It explained it. Once I maneuvered it over and pulled open, I saw a sharp knife, a roll of duct tape, and a bottle of pills. Oh my goodness, this is terrifying. The delusion officially broke at that point, and all the adrenaline, endorphins, and self-preservation instincts that had been suppressed kicked in 10 times over. I became whatever the opposite of dazed is, more laser-focused than I have ever been in my entire life, with one singular goal, get back to my car. I dropped the bag, booked it across the street, got into my car, and slammed the pedal to the floor before the door was all the way closed. I went as far as I could, as fast as I could, until I hit a road signal. Then I pulled off into the side and realized I shouldn't be driving any more than necessary in the condition I was in. I pulled to the parking lot of a 24-hour drugstore and took a breath. I was finally calm and coherent enough to zip up my pants and formulate a plan of action. My first lucid thought was, who do I call first, the police or the girl whose house that was? I thought about it for what couldn't have really been for more than 10 seconds, but felt like an hour. And I decided, okay, I am locked in my car with the engine running. If trouble starts, I can drive away. I know something's up. She might not know. She needs to know not to keep walking in that direction. But as I was dialing her number, it occurred to me, what if there was no girl? Huh? I'm confused. I thought I remembered delivering to the house before, but what if I was wrong? What if the girl on the phone was just a decoy to get me there and rob me, or worse? Every pizza guy on the planet has seen the Evil Genius documentary by now. I haven't seen that. Now I need to add it to my list. So I thought, she called me all out of breath. She wasn't home. The whole thing was off. I can't risk it. I'll start with the cops. That's smart. I called 911. The operator was very helpful in keeping me calm because I was a complete wreck by that point. He kept assuring me that someone would be there soon. I kept telling them that they had to get there before the girl did, but I was trying to express 3 thoughts at once and really damaging my own credibility. It came out more as, quote, you have got to save this girl because he wasn't after me. I was just delivering a pizza, unless they were after me, in which case there might not be a girl, but I talked to one on the phone. So then you should find that girl because they used her to lure me there. But if she's real, she doesn't know about the guy who is also real. And there could be more guys if there actually is a girl. And you know what? Even if there isn't a girl, there might actually be more guys. I only checked one part of the bushes, so I don't actually know. But we'll know which guy is the one I saw because I peed all over him, I didn't mean to. This was back when I thought the girl was real but not home. But she might be real, so you really need to find her because this guy was real. Finally, they basically just asked me to stop talking and stay on the line. But that was when I saw an incoming call from the customer. I couldn't answer it without disrupting my 911 call, so I just ignored it. But then she sent me this text, like, quote, "Hey, I'm here. I don't see you." I told 911 she was there, and they said officers were only minutes away. But who knows how long that meant, especially after I'd given such a scattered account of the events in my panic. I just felt overwhelmed with guilt, because my rational mind said the odds of her being a decoy girl for some large scam targeting pizza guys were low, and the odds of her being the intended victim of a predator were high. So I put my 911 call on mute, where I can hear them, but they can't hear me, and I turned back, heart absolutely pounding out of my chest, compulsively muttering bad words the entire time. Then I took 911 off mute and told them I'd returned to look for the girl. They weren't happy about that, but I saw her meandering past the parked cars in the street looking to see if one was mine, and I waved her down, flashing my brights. She bounced on over to the window by my car, happy-go-lucky. I figured that was a good sign that she wasn't in on whatever this was. But I was just so scared to be back in the general area and to not know what had happened or what was going on. I kept whispering, "Oh my goodness, get in, get in." And she was like, "Get in? Huh? Oh, you want me to get the pizza from the back? Girl, don't do that." Like, what? I didn't want to make the same mistake with her that I had made with 911. So instead of trying to tell the whole story, I stuck to the bare facts. There was a man in your bushes. I'm on the phone with the police. I don't know where he is right now. Please get in the car so we can lock the doors. Okay, I know he's trying to be so helpful, but if I'm that girl, there's no way that I'm getting in this car with you unless you hand me the phone so I can sit there and talk to 911. Because in my mind, I'd be like, "Oh, you're the bad guy that's trying to get me. And now you're just trying to get me to willingly go into your car." I was barely able to get even those sentences out, and I was shaking like I'd had 10 cups of black coffee. I held up my phone with 911 on the call screen to verify it for her. I thought that was why she got in the car with no further explanation. But it turns out that wasn't entirely it. "Are you still there? Is she with you? Are you safe? Is anyone else there?" 911 kept checking in, not knowing who the third party was that I was talking to. I reassured them, and we drove, more cautiously this time, to a location 911 instructed us to wait at, to speak with the police after they cleared the area. I didn't actually have to do much after that. The police came pretty soon after. A police car met us. I gave a statement telling them everything I observed, and she went to go speak to more officers in more detail than they needed me for. It turned out the reason she got right into a strange pizza guy's car without probing any deeper into my story is because she knew the man as soon as I gave my description. She had an abusive ex-boyfriend who was apparently psychotic enough that he immediately came to mind from hearing, "There's a guy in your bushes." She later called us to thank me and insisted on leaving a huge tip. I wasn't there when the call came in, so the kid who'd answered didn't know to refuse to accept the money. But the manager already promised the next time we see her, we can load her up enough with 1 free pie cards to last a lifetime. Easily the scariest thing that has ever happened to me, on the job or off. I don't get the chance to tell this story much because I try to avoid sharing it with anyone who could possibly know the girl or know of the event. But I'm still not the same since. Even though I know he didn't even have anything to do with me directly, this truly shook me to my core. So, man in the bushes, let's not meet. Ugh, this one is wild. And I'm like, this is the kind of story that you read and then know that somewhere out there is the girl's point of view, like where she has written her story out. And it's just like, Yeah, so I think I was about to get kidnapped, but then this pizza guy saved me, question mark. This story got me feeling like every single emotion because it starts off hilarious with him peeing all over someone, but then it immediately fills you with pure terror when you find out about the bag. Like, oh, I'm so glad that he was there and unknowingly saved her life, probably. I mean, if it's her ex-boyfriend, he knows where she lives. So I really hope that she ended up being okay and maybe he was able to be arrested or something. But that's terrifying to have such a bad ex that you immediately think of them when someone says that there was someone trying to attack you. All right, our last story tonight is a pretty short one, but just a good one to end on. It's from user Party18712 from the subreddit True Scary Stories, and it was written sometime about 9 months ago, so sometime this year. It's called Spoke with a Woman After She Died in a Car Crash. I've been in law enforcement for over 16 years here in Texas and have seen more than my fair share of tragic, creepy, and downright unexplainable things on the job. From murder scenes to suicides to fatality accidents, sometimes the place just feels different. I've posted here before about a burglary in progress call I responded to, but here's another encounter that still sticks with me. I may have shared it before, but I figure it's worth repeating for everyone. There was one call I went to, a death notification, that really freaked me out. I had to contact some family members of a deceased woman that was involved in a fatal car accident a few miles away from her home. When I arrived, I met a woman near the roadway just inside the property gate. She said she heard me coming from miles away. I asked her if she lived at the residence, which she confirmed that she did. After asking her to speak with me at the house, she agreed, but said she needed the walk, as the house was about 75 yards from the road. After making it to the house, I approached the front door on a small wooden porch and began scanning the driveway for the woman. It was about 1 a.m. and completely dark. While looking for the woman, the front door opened and a younger woman appeared. She was concerned about my presence and asked if everything was okay. I asked if I could speak with her and any other adults inside, and she welcomed me in. I told her I would wait for the woman I met near the gate, and she told me no one else should be home. I then freaked out and began searching the property, but nothing. After entering the residence, I told her and her husband the news about Susan, which ended up being her mother. She said her mother moved in a few months back after her father had passed and wasn't handling it well. While she and her husband were comforting one another, I began to look at photos on the wall. There was this picture of a middle-aged woman that stuck out to me. She was a younger version of the woman I spoke with near the gate. While looking at that picture, the daughter confirmed that that was her mother. Quote, the woman that passed in the wreck. I spoke with the ghost of the individual that died in the crash just before telling her family what had happened. This experience and many others prompted me to start sharing stories like these from the job. And this user actually has a YouTube channel called Policing the Shadows. So please go give them a listen because I'm sure that he has so many creepy stories. So I can't wait to check them out. But I just wanted to include this one because it was a quick one and it was just one that's so eerie yet kind of comforting at the same time. And I still want to do an episode on like the third man theory and things like that about when people do die in accidents or when people are in an accident and they feel like they see someone else with them, but there's no record of that person ever being there. I know it happens a lot for like people in car accidents or things like that. So it's a cool phenomenon that I think it would be a fun like bonus episode to do sometime. So this one just kind of reminded me of that. And I don't know. I liked the story. I liked being able to end on it. And it wasn't too spooky. It's easy to think danger only exists in abandoned buildings or deep in the woods. but sometimes it's sitting at the stoplight right next to you, or waiting at the shoulder just ahead, or in the bushes. If tonight's episode made you think twice about who's in your rearview mirror, then we've done our job. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, we would really appreciate you following, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend. If you're craving even more stories, head over to our Patreon where you can get bonus episodes. I just recorded a bonus episode right before this one, and it was excellent. It was so good. If you have a story that you want shared with the world, please send it in. We love to hear them. You can email us at statichourpodcast@gmail.com or head over to our socials and leave a comment there. I am Bree, and you've been listening to the Static Hour. We are going off the air. Good night.